freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Gun Freedom Radio, where we engage, we educate, and we inform. We are brought to you by azfirearms.com, your nationwide hometown gun shop. I am one of your hosts, Cheryl Todd.
And I'm the other guy, Dan Todd. We're doing a series called American, talking about the can-do spirit that is part of our American DNA.
Absolutely. We have had our lives completely turned upside down with this whole coronavirus stuff going on. And we've been hearing an awful lot about what we can't do in places that we can't go. But we've been interviewing experts in their field about all the ways that we still can learn and grow, train and connect, and expand our freedoms in ways that maybe we haven't even thought about before. And our guest today is Shelley Walters. Shelley is a wife and mother of 4. She is the owner of Females with Firearms and Everything Under the Gun, that both operate under 4 basic tenets. Life is valuable and worth protecting. Freedom is valuable and worth defending. Personal responsibility is, you guessed it, valuable and worth embracing. And 4th, truth is valuable and worth speaking. Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here today. Welcome to the show, Shelley.
Hi.
So we are excited to have you on for multiple reasons, but one is that you wrote an article in the 2020, edition of the USCCA Concealed Carry Magazine on the essentials of armed parenthood, which I love that phrasing right there. But the article is titled Toy Gun Guidelines for Safety and Play. Can you kind of walk us through the article and some of the responsibly armed ideas behind how to teach children even through play?
Sure. I didn't mark mine. What page was it on?
No, that's fine. That's why I use these little sticky tabs right here. It is 128, I believe that says.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
And it's part of, which is really cool. I think it's quarterly. It's not every magazine, I don't think, but there is a women's section, and that is where yours appears. And I love it because Beth Alcazar is a good friend, one of our DC project ladies, and she is the editor of that part of the magazine.
So what's that mean? If there's a women's section, does that mean when a guy gets to that section, he has to stop?
No, actually, I think guys go to that section. I've been hearing this. They go there first. They're like, what have we been missing out on that the ladies maybe know that we don't? So It's pretty cool stuff. So dive right in on that, if you would, Shelley, about your article.
Well, my intention with the guidelines themselves was to establish good habits, to cultivate mindfulness. That is a big deal with me and my children. All of what I try to teach them is about being mindful in everything they do. And to develop a healthy mental and emotional state towards firearms and the Second Amendment and personal responsibility. The reason I ended up writing the article was because we sort of found ourselves in the middle of this kind of like a family reunion, but with a bunch of friends. we weren't part of the group. We just kind of woke up in the middle of it, and all these other RV families were around us. And that's like, because we were boondocking out in the desert of Arizona. And so we're out there all by ourselves. And then we woke up one morning, and then an RV is there and a bunch of kids pour out. And then another RV pulls up and a bunch of kids pour out. And then the next day, another couple of RVs. And it was suddenly a neighborhood. And I'm not kidding, at the peak of it, I think there were about 30 children there at one point.
Wow.
And it was great. It was wonderful. And because they were all full-time families. And so they all had this in common that we don't find very often. And my son, Joseph, was very popular. He's 9, actually, he just turned 10. But he's our little soldier boy. He's head to toe camo all the time. He always has his gun. It's a very vast collection. Stick guns, Lego guns, pieces of vehicles that we find on the road with duct tape on them. Anything that looks like a gun is going to become a gun. And so all these kids would come to our camp and pick up these guns. And what's the first thing almost every single one of them did as soon as they picked up one?
Pointed it at each other.
They pointed it at their best friend or their sibling and pretended to pull the trigger. And I'm just sitting there watching this, and I was like, oh my God. And it's so many kids. Usually it's 1 or 2, and we go, okay, guys, come here. These are our rules. If you're going to play with us, this is how you play with us. If I see you break the rules, I take it away. But it's like all these children, and my son hasn't gotten to play in forever, and he's just over the moon. And so I'm watching kids, and I just started writing down all of the things that we talk about as a family and we go through as a family. And I was creating a course, actually, to present to the other families. But we ran out of time. We didn't end up getting to do it. And I was like, well, Beth had asked for a couple of articles, so let's just see if I can schmooze this into an article. And that's how I ended up actually writing it. I actually had, watching all those kids, it reminded me in high school. I had a couple of friends. Well, one was a friend. I didn't really know the other guy. But my friend got shot in the neck. And he got shot in the neck, and it went out under his arm. And he was fine. He survived and recovered fully. But I remember the rumors just flying through the high school of what happened because it was his best friend who shot him.
Oh, wow.
Out and all this stuff. And I just sat there in the trailer looking at all these kids playing and thinking, that's what happened. His friend said, oh, I want to show you something, and I don't know what is the instinct in humans that the first time they hold a gun, if they aren't trained, if they aren't prepared, they want to point it at someone they love and pull the trigger.
Well, Shelley, I used to be young way back, and I remember, playing with toy guns and stuff. We had all the guns that looked like real guns and whatever. But I read your article a couple days ago, and I'm thinking, why do we need this? And then I realized that there are so many new guns, real guns that look like toys, and there are so many toys that look like real guns, that if we don't teach kids how to respect all of them at an early age, there's going to be a lot of accidents.
Yes, absolutely. That comes up a lot, especially on females with firearms. Women like to trick their guns out. Many of them like to I like mine black and plain, but I've always been that way.
Same. Yeah, me too.
But one of my dear friends is Sandy from Offhand Gear, Sandy Keller, and she makes beautiful handguards for rifles. And then through her, I've gotten to meet Area 15 and some other Cerakoders. And I mean, my son Joey, I think he's going to be a Cerakoder when he grows up, because he's always tricking out his guns, always taping them up and painting them. And people like doing that. They like personalizing it. And then the big debate comes up over, well, now, how do we know what's real and what's not? And I've got a lot of friends in law enforcement, and the issue comes up with guns that look real that aren't. And then, if they end up shooting a kid or someone who's pulling a fake gun, but it looks real, and then they get flambéed and they have to live with that guilt. And I think as a society, if we just get used to treating all of them with respect, the outcome will be far safer and there will be less unintended consequences.
Right. I like that idea a lot more, with education instead of taking them away from the kids, because it is a part of,
Well, in the DC project, one of our hashtags is education, not legislation. So
Right.
it's a
Right.
same kind of a thing, right? Let's educate our kids, not legislate them, because like your son, he will find a thing and make, again, one of my nephews, I mean, he made the most amazing, uh, what are they called? Like toilet paper roll and uh, paper towel roll, the center core. He would take those and fashion them and tape them and everything else. And he would make the most amazing looking AR-15s that are made of cardboard, and kids will find a way. They are imaginative. And so just simply saying that's a no-no to even touch a thing that looks like that, it's never going to work. So let's educate them, right?
Yes.
So this article is awesome. I encourage everybody to read it. The first point is never assume a gun's identity based on its color, size, or accessories. And just the phrasing is such a popular catchphrase these days. Don't assume identity, right? So it's like that should stick. People should get that. If a gun isn't yours, don't touch it without your trusted grown-up's permission. And never try to convince someone that a toy is real, or a real firearm is a toy. That one right there. I mean, did that kind of come from your high school friends' experience, or where did that point come from?
From the news, from articles and videos that have been sent to us, from friends' stories, Mostly I was thinking of the officers. I was thinking of, every time someone had a fake gun that looked real and there were consequences for that. And then the public gets all over them. And it's like, you really don't have time. And that's the choice that person made to pretend the gun was real. It was really, the onus is on them that they did that and they made that choice. But now it's the officer or the CCW holder who was defending someone or thinks they were defending someone, who has to live with that consequence.
Wow.
So that's what I was thinking. We'll embrace responsibility if we go, okay, this person made this choice. They set down on this path. They're the ones responsible for that consequence. I am trying to be responsible for what I know. I can only be responsible for what I know and for what I perceive. And so I'm trying to train my children, and through Females with Firearms, to try to encourage people to be mindful, to be aware, to pay attention. But there's only so much you can do. Like truck, there's only so many places I can look. So if I look here and I look there and I look here, and it's okay to move, it's okay to drive forward, and someone darts out in front of me, right. It's them that they did that.
That is so true. And I mean, that's a good perspective to keep in mind. Just that whole personal responsibility thing is lacking, I think, in our world these days. So any reminders we get are valuable. So, you touched on this in just telling us how all of a sudden you woke up in the middle of a neighborhood where there wasn't one the night before. You and your family, you are full-time boondock RVers. You have 4 kids and 2 parents living in a small living space, and you homeschool your children. So you were living the hashtag quarantine life before it was cool. So what led to you deciding to live this kind of unconventional and I don't know if it's an unplugged lifestyle, but where did that come from? That both you and your husband agreed. I mean, that's hard enough to get one person to think that's a great idea with 4 kids, but 2? Talk to us about that.
It took a while to get him on board.
Really?
He really wants to be comfortable and have a very conventional life. A nice house with a white picket fence and a giant TV screen. But I've always been drawn to the unconventional. I've always been fascinated by how people in different parts of the world live so differently. And yet, if they were to live that way around us, we'd be like, oh, that's weird. you know, it's just always fascinated me. But what really started leading him along was a series of unfortunate events in our lives. Some were choices, some were just kind of thrust upon us. But ultimately, we ended up crawling out of debt 3 times. And actually, we didn't quite officially make it all the way. We ended up having to declare bankruptcy. But it's because I found ourselves in usury with 2 creditors who just would not work with us. No matter what I did, I kept paying and paying and paying. And eventually I realized I had paid off that debt and the initial interest, but they weren't applying it. They just kept upping the interest and upping the fees and changing the story on me every single time. And I did exactly what they said. And I was like, what do I do? And so I started looking into bankruptcy, which I was like, oh, I will never do that. That's a sin, you know, like that is awful.
I get it.
I didn't just look into how to do it or the legalities of it. I wanted to find the history of it. I'm a research hound. So I started looking into the history of it, and I discovered that the process of declaring bankruptcy is actually asking forgiveness. And I was like, well, I'm familiar with forgiveness. I've been forgiven. As a Christian, that is a huge part of my life, is to live in forgiveness. And so I was like, okay, I have done absolutely everything I can. I have been as responsible as I can, and they're not letting me do this. And their part. And so I could have maybe tried suing them, but I didn't have that kind of money.
Right. And they count on that. So
yeah. So we went ahead and declared bankruptcy, and this was 10, 11, 12 years ago. I don't know. But at that time, we looked at each other and we promised each other no more intentional debt, no more credit cards, no loans, no intentional debt, understanding that things can happen. You know, your house can burn down, you can get in a car accident, someone could get cancer, you know, all sorts of things could come up and thrust debt upon you, but we would not seek it. And my husband was like, well, okay, but I'm not going to let my family be homeless. And I said, well, what if that's it? You know, we need to stick to our guns, because if we don't, we're just, you know, it gets you little by little, you know, erodes back to where you were. And so we made a really hard and fast decision to not take on any more debt and to live within our means. So this truck, our beautiful old beat up Ford Excursion, I call her the Leviathan, because she looks like an old dragon. She's all oxidized and blue and green, and she's a bucket of bolts, but she works and she pulls through, and she is owned free and clear. We own her 100%.
That's awesome.
It is not pretty, and she's been splattered with paintballs, which you would think is nice and colorful, but over time they just become these black splatters. And she's earned that, and she's held together, but she's ours, free and clear. We own her 100%, and everything in her we own 100%. And so that's been our goal. We wanted to be able to travel more, but we need to build up more finances for that. So we travel basically just here within Arizona for right now. We did make it all the way across the country to DC, and dipped our toes in the ocean, like literally just dipped our toes in the ocean. It was freezing, and it was a little and we did that, and the trip back, we ran out of money, and it just took a couple extra months to get back. So we said, we'll just stay in our area for now.
So you can work remotely then. Your work goes where you go.
Yes, my husband is a web developer. He builds and hosts websites.
That's fantastic. And, you know, so much of the country over the last 2 months has taken on, you know, as much work as they can from a home space, wherever that is. And I'm pretty convinced that there's a bunch of people that are going to have to realize that they're going to have to downsize, and they're probably going to have to deal with creditors. And I mean, you're the American dream in that way, that it's like, you know, that where there's a will, there's a way. You can find a way. It may not look like the thing that you thought it was going to look like, but You've got healthy, happy children. You've got a beautiful view out your window that changes on a whim. It's pretty amazing. I kind of love it.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Absolutely.
I've seen, we do estate sales, and I've seen a lot of people that just say, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And they sell everything they own that won't fit in an RV and buy an RV, and that's it. And they don't like it here, they'll go there. And they don't like it there, they'll go here. And
well, and sometimes, and I'll let you actually get a word in here. I'm sorry, Shelley. But, sometimes we get to a place where our things own us instead of us owning our things. And I think that there's a real freedom in the mindset that you and your husband have. And I'm excited for how you're raising your children, because I think you're setting them up to not fall into those traps.
Yeah, we're working on it. The kids actually really wanted to do this for several years. Every prayer we had, over meals and friends, and anything we prayed ended with, it was amen, and please give us an RV.
Nice.
And
that's nice. That's good to kid.
Well, their dad came along to take on the idea. First he said, only if it's a brand new Winnebago, top of the line, all the slide outs and all this. And God said, oh, that's so cute. So
we do that sometimes. The guys sometimes do that. Oh yeah, on a condition. And then God goes, oh, watch this. Boom.
So my husband's best friend at the time had a little old pop-up camper in his backyard. Have you seen those?
Yep.
With bottom shell, and then the top is all canvas, and it folds out and the beds kind of slide out. He's like, well, I've been trying to sell this thing and I can't even, give it away. So do you want it? And so he said, sure. And, I have pictures of my oldest son sewing the canvas, repairing the canvas, and my younger kids doing Bondo on the body. And my husband gutted out the latrine area and turned it into a power bank with 8 batteries, if I'm remembering correctly, maybe 6 batteries. We had a Yagi antenna. We had better internet than anybody else, way out in the middle of nowhere, in this beat up little camper, but we loved it. But you can't travel in that, you can't pull off on the side of the road because everything you have is in there. So everything has to come out in order for you to have that living space. So you really have to go camping. Camping than RVing. But we did that for a while, and that was really great. And then my mom got cancer, and we moved back and stayed with her for a while. And then when she passed away, she said she made my husband promise to keep this promise and to use the money that she was giving me to get the rig. And that was all we could afford. It wasn't much, but it's been home. The whole point of why the kids prayed for so many years. By the time we got to do it, my middle son and my daughter were in the tween stage and had friends and were like not wanting to do it anymore. And after we had done it for a year, I pulled them each aside and I was like, how do you feel? What do you think about it? And at the time they said, it's not what I'm going to choose for my life. It's really hard. It's difficult. But they said, but I see how it's making me stronger and how it's making me think differently than other kids. And I think that's really cool and useful to me.
And phenomenal.
So we knew they weren't going to do it, but just the other day, they were all setting up the latrine and they're just chatting and talking and laughing. And they were each talking about what kind of rig they're going to have when they leave home.
I love it. That's fantastic. Well, just talking about, how differently it causes you and your family to interact with each other and to think about the world around you. That is a culture. Your family has built its own culture. And speaking of culture, there is a huge cultural push out there to shame parents from owning guns and, oh my goodness, teaching their children firearms proficiency and safety. And I'm sure that is part of your family's culture. So Now that millions of first-time gun owners have realized that we are all our own immediate responders, the Bloomberg-funded Moms Demand group is on overdrive to try to figure out how they are going to continue to say that guns and gun owners are bad without exposing how bigoted they are, right? In the past, they would just make us the evil and undesirable other. But since COVID, gun ownership is more we than it has ever been in decades. So what do you say to parents to help them resist that shaming?
When we first really decided we were going to leave the conventional lifestyle, all of my friends and family, even people who'd been supporting us, once it became real, were like, okay, hold on, and started sending me every article of every family who's had their kids taken away, who's had to deal with people arresting them, people making up stuff about them, people just freaking out because that's different. That's different. And I really had to sit and think about it. And the thought came to me and has persisted with me that if I don't want my children to live in fear, I can't raise them with fear. And sometimes it's really hard. I mean, we've been moved along. We've had, the knocks on the door by the authorities in the morning. You're not allowed to be here. You need to move on. And I found when I answer the door with a smile and with respect, and I talk to that person like they're a human being, they instantly, their demeanor changes. It's not what they're expecting. And they talk to me like I'm a human being. I think the shame game is one of humanity's favorite pastimes. They shame us, we shame them. We love to, especially parents. And I think that part of that is a feeling of safety. If I shame that parent enough for doing that thing, it means I'm safe. It doesn't make logical sense at all, obviously, but it helps our hearts. It helps us separate ourselves from them. If there's a tragic accident with a child, that would never happen to me because I'm not like them. They're bad parents, when most of the time they're good parents. So I think that remembering each other's humanity, considering each other's humanity really helps with putting us in a good mindset and a good place with our heart for that. But the other thing that helps me with shame, I mean, I said I know forgiveness well. I know shame well too. I still feel bad about things I did when I was 5. I really struggle with it. There's people I wish I could go back and apologize to in junior high and high school and a couple SHOT shows ago, like I have memories and I'm like, oh, I wish I could apologize to that person. But what helps me with incorrect shame is to remember who I am, to remember whose I am. And as a Christian, obviously, we say that all the time, remember whose we are. But even if you're not a Christian, you can remember, whose mom you are, whose wife you are, whose daughter you are, whose friend you are. And why you believe what you believe, why you do what you do, that's powerful. So I would say education, like we were talking about. I was thinking about the DC project when I was going through my notes, and I was thinking about educate, not legislate. And that's really a shame killer when you know the truth. And that gives you, when you know the truth really well, that gives you your margins. So you can be gracious with other people who don't know it. You don't have to be afraid of their ahas. You don't have to be afraid of their questions. You can go ahead and listen to them and meet them where they're at and let them feel valuable, treat them with value so that you can then communicate to them, moms demand action. It gives us all the cringies and we get all upset and we're all concerned about it. And, Bloomberg and all of them, they have an agenda, yes. But a lot of the troops on the ground, they're moms and they're scared and they're being taken advantage of and they're being fed a lie. They're being told this will keep you safe, but we know better and we need to see them more as hostages. That we need to tell them, look, we know the truth. I totally get you. I care for our kids. Sorry.
It's okay.
Are you there? my phone just went into low power mode, and I thought, oh no, I lost them.
No, you're fine.
If we meet them where they're at and we connect with them and we say, I get you, I understand, I have those feelings, I'm concerned about my children, I'm concerned about your children, I'm concerned about the whole freaking country, you know, and you're being lied to. There is a better way. And we can give our children that power. We can give our children the means to grow up responsible and free by teaching them from the very beginning not to be scared of anything, but to have a good relationship with it, that it's about respect, it's about personal responsibility. You cannot have freedom without those things.
That's awesome. Well, we need to wrap up and let you go, especially if your phone is in low power mode. Holy cow, that's always a scary place to be. Please tell folks how they can read the stuff that you write, including this article in the Concealed Carry magazine titled Toy Gun Guidelines for Safety and Play, how they can find you online, maybe learn from you, pick your brain on some things, this whole RV lifestyle, or, you know, females with firearms, parents with firearms. How can people follow you?
Well, my biggest following is on Females with Firearms. That's on Facebook. I also do have a website, femaleswithfirearms.com. I need to collect all of my writing that's just kind of scattered all over the place and try to get it on there. It's not on there yet, but it will be soon. On mostly I'm on Facebook. I have Facebook and IG. Do you want me to list them all?
Yeah, just real quickly. I mean, at least your Females with Firearms connection.
Yes. Females with Firearms on Facebook. The with is very important. If you say females and firearms, you're going to get a whole different thing. Please don't do that. I couldn't do Females with Firearms on Instagram, so that's everything under the gun. But that feeds into the Females with Firearms right now. And then I also have Freedom of Education. That's for homeschoolers and unschoolers, and really any teachers who are taking that personal responsibility within their classrooms, unique classrooms and different learning environments. And then Mundane Beautiful is my photography page. And I'm missing one. Although there's the Disheveled Coffee House, because I love coffee.
The Leviathan and what's the other one?
Leviathan and Parsonage. That's our family's personal journey.
Absolutely. Well, awesome stuff. Awesome life. I'm so excited and encouraged for your example of the whole family culture, the homeschooling, that you show us that it's possible, that we don't have to just mindlessly, you know, go in lockstep with what is normal. We're huge Dave Ramsey fans, and, you know, he loves saying something like, you know, normal is boring, or what is something like that. And so it's like, it's true, be different, but mindful about how you're different. And you certainly are. Thank you so much. Shelley Walters of Females with Firearms.
Bye-bye, Shelley.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye. That was fun.
Yes. That'd be a different deal, wouldn't it? To just get up and say, okay, I'm not going to have a house anymore.
It's so true. So, you know, every once in a while, like, we love to go to spend a few days on the ocean. California is closest to us, so we go over to California. And, you know, while you're there, you get that little like, oh, what would it be like to live on the ocean, live right here on the beach? And then I'm like, you know what? I think I would get bored, because my scenery would be the exact same 365 days out of the year. And so the polar opposite of that is living a lifestyle where you get to purposely choose your scenery to be different.
You know, it got me thinking there. So it's been a long time since we've been in California, considering, you know, we used to go all the time. Do we have to have a passport to go there now?
Yeah, maybe.
Are they still part of the United States?
I am not sure. Some of the news stories I'm hearing out of California really shouldn't shock me, because they love legislation and they love regulation. And it's so weird to me that grown adults would choose to live a lifestyle where they have developed such a permission-based system
They like the,
to
you know
live
why?
under.
It's they have an opportunity is worth more than their freedom. I think is what it is.
An opportunity.
Yeah, because there's jobs, there's big, high-paying jobs there,
Mm,
but with that comes a cost of legislation and higher
yes.
taxes, higher everything.
Yeah.
So really, when you wash it all down, is it the same? You
No,
know.
for
So
real.
I think that's why. Because I mean, I love California, and there's been a couple times that we could have been persuaded to move to California, and you know what? My freedom's worth more money than that.
Your
My
freedom's
freedom's worth more
worth
than money.
more
Than money.
than money.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
Much more.
All right, we got to get out of here.
Where are we going?
We are I don't know.
Well, we got to get out of here. We got to do what Cheryl says. That's for sure.
We've actually got another interview lined up. So we're not actually going anywhere, but we've got to clear a
Okay.
deck and move
I got you.
onto the okay. So thank you so much to our awesome listeners. We value your time. We know that it is your most finite resource, and when you spend it with us and then you take these thoughts and ideas into your spheres of influence and your dinner tables and your wherever you go. Are you on the soccer field yet? Are we doing kids sports? Are we?
I have no. One day you can, and it seems like the next day you can't, and we got to be 6 feet apart, and I don't know.
I know. So thank you so much, because when you do take these thoughts and ideas into the conversations that you have, wherever they are, they could be virtual, like a Zoom, like we've been doing. That's where that is the value that we're creating here. And thank you so much to our awesome guest, Shelley Walters, for taking the time out of homeschooling 4 kids.
There's a example of freedom right there. You know, they don't have debt.
Mm-hmm.
They're not locked into any place.
Yeah.
They're teaching their kids everything.
Yeah.
That's freedom.
That is freedom. That is liberty for sure. So, thank you so much to Shelley and her husband and her kids for the example they're setting. And whether you are watching this on either YouTube or Gunstreamer, or whether you're just listening to the audio version on gunfreedomradio.com, please be sure to go to our website, gunfreedomradio.com, and click the On Demand tab and binge listen to your heart's content, all of the shows we've ever put on, and click the guest tab, and you can see photos and links and bios of all the guests we've ever had on. It is a tremendous resource for people that they're experts in some area of guns or freedom, right? Because we are Gun Freedom Radio. And until next time, pray for our nation and pray for our leaders.
Pray for the nation. Okay, got that.
And our leaders.
Like, who's our leaders?
That is a good question.
Yeah,
I mean, that right there is
a
thought-provoking question.
Is Nancy Pelosi our leader? Yeah,
She's somebody's.
I have to say,
Probably.
I mean, okay, maybe her kids, but so, all these nurses and everybody they're working their butts off, and she says, well, I'm not going to go in today. I'm not going to work today.
Yeah, not cool, Nancy.
That's not a leader. That's not a leader. She might have a leader position, but she's not a leader. So what I want to know is, am I praying for leaders or people that think they're leaders? What am I praying for?
Yes.
Okay.
All of them, Dan.
All right.
Even the ones you don't like.
This is going to take me some time to think about.
Especially the ones you don't like. Have a great week. Be good to each other. And God bless.